Welcome. Today's topic is going to be incredibly useful. Let's get started. What makes a robot better than a human? Is it that it's much stronger than us? Or is it that it's more resilient? Or is it that it can remember every piece of information we ask it? I think it's none of those things. I'll tell you what it is. For me, what makes a robot different from us and what makes it powerful is that it does what is asked of it directly, without asking any questions, every time and without getting bored. You give an order, then it acts immediately and you see the results. Chain of command. But we humans are not like that. Here's an example from today. I don't want to work at all. I can't motivate myself at all. I know I have to do it. It has to be done. Something has to be finished. The order is clear. Finish it by tonight. But there is a resistance in me against doing it. When you think about it, it doesn't make any sense, does it? It would be much better if it didn't exist and we could do everything easily, wouldn't it? Of course, there is an explanation for this. If we want to understand how to motivate ourselves, we need to understand these kinds of situations. So in this video, I will explain how you can motivate yourself and how the motivational mechanism works. Since this problem is a personal problem, everyone's solutions will be different and unique. So I'm not going to give advice like do this or do that, but you will draw some conclusions from what you have learned and give your own advice. Unlike the robot's chain of commands, actions, and results, our chain is different. Ours is a link, or rather a loop, a cycle of action, reward, and motivation. As a result of an action, we get a reward. For example, studying for an exam. We study for hours, whether we want to or not. We get stuck in problems, but we keep going, and in the end, we manage to get the high grade we wanted. This is a reward, and as a result, it motivates us, so we can continue the same action again. But as we all know, it's not that simple. We can't just push a button like a robot and take action. There are obstacles to this cycle. These obstacles can break the connection. First of all, most of us are looking for motivation to take action. I don't want to do it now. Let me watch this show and feel better, then I'll work on it. But first, you need to take action, because what we get by taking action motivates us. Some psychologists define motivation as the desire to initiate and maintain a certain behavior. So how do we initiate and maintain that behavior if it's not there in the first place? For some, listening to music can be useful. The work starts flowing immediately with the flow of the music. For others, however, the same thing is distracting. For reasons like these, the solutions are also personal. But as humans, there are some common influences. To investigate the reasons for this, an experiment was conducted in 1998 with primary school students. The children were given puzzles that were very difficult to solve. In other words, they were the kind of things you wouldn't want to deal with and wouldn't enjoy doing. Then these students were all given very good grades. But the explanation for the high grades was that one group was told, because you are very smart and very talented, and the other group was told, because you are very hardworking. The interesting part of the story starts right here. The students were asked to solve such puzzles again, but this time not all the puzzles were difficult. There were some very easy ones, and the students were free to solve whatever they wanted. Which group do you think chose the difficult one? And which group chose the easy one? Think about it. I want you to think about this one in particular, because this information can be particularly valuable for you if you find it difficult to stay motivated and you can't predict it correctly. Children who are told they are very smart and talented tend to focus on simpler problems, and when they solve the problem and are asked if they like it, they answer, "Oh well." In other words, it's a case of focusing on a simple problem and not enjoying it very much. On the other hand, children who are told that they are hard workers prefer difficult problems and are happier as a result. So what does this tell us? Should we then always tell ourselves that we are hardworking? I am hardworking, I am hardworking, I am great. The concept I actually want to talk about is locus of control. Simply put, it is the belief about how much control we have over things in our lives. For example, children who are told that they are very smart and talented represent an external locus of control. This is because they believe that being smart and talented is not something they can control, but something they inherit. Naturally, hard work does not have much impact on their success. Environmental external factors play the main role. Why should they try? At least that's how they think. On the other hand, students who are told they are hardworking are examples of internal locus of control. This is because being hardworking is something they themselves determine and can control. The success they achieve as a result of their actions is entirely a product of their own efforts. This is why the loop is important. To make the connection between this reward and motivation, it is not enough just to enjoy the reward. We need to see receiving the reward as a product of the intense process that got us there. When we associate the reward with the effort itself, we have a motivation to work again and achieve that reward again, as long as you start the chain somewhere and don't break it. Another example. For example, let's imagine that someone is selling things door to door. Who do you think is the best person for such a job? Let's think together. You start your job, it's your first day. You knock on doors with excitement, but one after another, the doors close in your face. Nobody wants to buy anything. Some don't even listen. Evening comes and your boss asks, "Why do you think you didn't sell anything?" At this point, people with external locus of control tend to answer that the weather was bad, people were in a very bad mood today, nobody has money to buy. In other words, they blame their inability to make sales entirely on external factors. This demotivates them, and the next day, they are even less motivated. Why put in the effort when the whole world is conspiring against you? And ultimately, this is the reason why they fail. There are certainly some factors in life that are beyond our control and really affect our success, but you see, what we achieve is also a matter of perception. Even if we live and experience it, we can all interpret things differently. This shows us that we can really take control of the event. One of the best things you can do to motivate yourself is to keep your eyes open. My biggest piece of advice is that even if you think the cause is an external factor, try to convince yourself otherwise. Of course, without blaming yourself. You can think of it as a self-motivation exercise to succeed. Why are we like this? I mean, wouldn't it be better if we could work like a robot all the time? I'll do it, lumberjack. Do I have to force my mind just to make this video? There's actually a reason for this. Energy conservation. This was very important for our ancestors to survive in nature. We can't spend our energy on one thing all the time because it can be dangerous for us when we are tired or sick. Unfortunately, this is something we can't get rid of easily, and dopamine is partly responsible for this. In short, dopamine is a molecule in our brain that makes us feel rewarded. It's therefore important to understand when we release dopamine and when it increases or decreases. But there is a lot of confusion about this. For example, in some diseases, such as Parkinson's, patients are prescribed dopamine medications. Something very interesting is observed in patients taking these drugs. Guess what it is? Okay, this might be a bit difficult, so let me explain. Gambling addiction. Even if these people have never gambled in their lives, after taking dopamine drugs, they can develop an addiction to gambling. This is because gambling machines completely target dopamine production. They offer immediate rewards with small games and always promise more. Action, put the money in the machine, turn the handle. The prize, you've won $50, try again. And lights, bells, you are literally hypnotized. When you get the reward, motivation comes, action again. The wheel keeps turning, round and round and round. That's why it's so important to understand the role of dopamine in our lives. But there is no clear formula for how to motivate ourselves, because everyone is special, everyone is unique. Therefore, it's important to understand the mechanism of dopamine so that we can come up with our own solutions. For example, how often should you reward yourself when you work? There is such a question. I'm sure if you're having motivation problems, you've also tried rewarding yourself after working for a certain amount of time. But do you know how effective that is? If you constantly think about the reward at the end of the work, things might not go the way you want. This is where motivation, like locus of control, is divided into two: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. In intrinsic motivation, you are motivated to do something because it already gives you pleasure to perform that action. For example, just playing a game, you already enjoy performing that action. Therefore, the action itself is a source of intrinsic motivation. In extrinsic motivation, you motivate yourself to perform an action in order to get a reward at the end. For example, if you've been getting up at 5 a.m. to train for years, maybe you want to win an Olympic medal at the end. You might think, well, why don't I try for both? Wouldn't that be great? But no, it wouldn't. In fact, doing both can have the opposite effect. This is called the overjustification effect. For example, imagine that you enjoy painting. You have an intrinsic motivation for it, that is, you enjoy painting. You start giving your drawings as gifts to your friends and family. Then a relative says, "You draw so well, why don't you start selling them?" You say. The idea seems good because it's something you already enjoy. Besides, you will make money. But the sales increase, and after a while, you realize that you are only painting to keep the sales going. And suddenly, all the fun of painting starts to disappear. When you start making money as a reward for painting, your intrinsic motivation starts to diminish. That's why it's important to find a balance between the two and use the right thing in the right place. In summary, we always say, do what makes you happy and what you enjoy doing. That's exactly it. There should be goals and they should be used correctly. Work should not be reduced to just that. You should feel real happiness and joy in doing it. If necessary, you should make it fun for yourself while doing it. Nobody likes to do laundry or dishes at home, but when we do them and someone in our family says a nice word to us, things become more doable, don't they? Even just saying a kind word is something that we can do very easily. Our cycle may not be as simple as the robot's cycle, but isn't that what makes us human? If nice words and gestures didn't motivate us, who would all these poems and songs be written for? Who knows, maybe one day robots will create their own values like us. Do yourself a favor by subscribing to the channel.